It's been a little while since I've been able to record a video, and there's probably a shadow on this side of me, but what can I do? Anyway, let me take you back in time. The year's 2014. Low-budget horror movies are hotter than ever before. They've beaten the dead horse of found footage horror nearly to death. This time, instead of remaking Asian horror films about technology, we'll come up with our own. Unfriended. Unfriended is a genuinely interesting film. The movie's budget is listed as a mere $1 million, and it only took 16 days for them to film. The total box office revenue, you might be asking? Probably not, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. 63 million. You may be wondering, when I bring up a random horror film called Unfriended, how it was filmed so quickly and why the budget was so cheap. This movie is entirely shown through the lens of a computer screen. Through the lens of a computer screen. If that noise made you a bit nostalgic for simpler times, then, much like the characters in this movie, death is right around the corner for you. No need to fret though, because unlike our characters, you don't have a ghost trying to stalk you through a Skype call. Before I spoil this movie too much though, we should start off by saying spoiler warning. I'm going to spoil the entirety of Unfriended and Unfriended 2, also known as Unfriended Dark Web or some shit. If you haven't seen them, then go and watch them. Anyway, let's talk about this film, starting off with the characters having their little Skype sex, I guess I'm gonna call it.
What, Miss Blue Ball?
Hey, girls get them too.
I don't want to hear about your balls. That's so gross.
No, you know what I mean. Like,
I don't know what you mean. I just have this mental picture of balls, but no.
It's not too long into this awkward situation that their little escapade is interrupted by a group of friends. So, let me introduce you to them. We have the main character of the movie, Blair. We then have her boyfriend, Mitch, and his best friend, Adam, who's kind of a chaotic douchebag the entire film. He seems to be suffering from, like, rich kid with absent parents kind of vibes. After that, we have the blonde, bitchy girl, Jess, who just kind of starts arguments the whole film. Oh yeah, that one character, Kevin. We have Kevin, who... Kevin kind of... He stands out a little bit. I think Kevin's his name. I'm not entirely sure. He's the fat guy. Now you may be wondering why a group of pretty people have a fat friend who is very dorky. Well, he's gonna be the computer guy of this movie. He knows a lot about computers because he's fat and dorky. I guess they think he's funny, so he hung on to this friend group, probably since grade school or something. Like, I'm trying to, create a background for this character, Kevin. I don't even know if that's his name. You may be asking yourselves why they would need a little computer expert in this movie. Well, let's get into it. During this little Skype sex, when they're dragged into this call with their friends, they didn't join the call because we see Blair bitching at her boyfriend like, why did you bring us in there? That's so messed up. Because they were showing some of their bits to... Anyway, they didn't answer the call, but we figure out soon that there's something weird going on when they're in there with their friends and there's an extra person in there with them.
What?
Who's your buddy?
who is that?
I just tried to hang up on him.
Cyber three-way.
Ken?
Yeah.
I tried to hang up on this thing, it wouldn't let me.
You take turns.
This honestly was not in with us.
That came with you guys.
They have a little Skype profile like they've never put a profile picture on. And their account just says Billy. It's probably like Billy289 or some shit, some random numbers. Of course, this group just thinks that this Billy person is just a random creeper who's stalking them. So they hang up and try to create a new call, but lo and behold, this stranger is still in there with them. Throughout this, the movie pulls all of the things you'd expect in a movie like this, with the perspective of a computer. We see the girl's songs on Spotify, she's kind of going throughout Facebook and stuff. All of this just kind of ages the movie a little bit, because kids today don't use Facebook, let alone laptops. The internet got ruined by cell phones, sadly. I kind of have a problem with the way that this is done in the movie too, because every time Blair is doing something in the background on her computer, or reading an article about something that's going on, or looking into stuff, or getting messages from somebody, the background noise of all the characters just kind of disappears, and it's not like she muted them, you can just kind of faintly hear it. This whole bit of the movie just kind of reminded me, or this whole movie in general, reminded me of a short in the original VHS movie, which was also filmed through a video chat, but that one doesn't overstay its welcome, and is a lot scarier. Not a lot. This movie isn't scary at all, so it is a lot scarier. Moving on, the movie continues to do the, oh my god, there's a random stranger in our video chat for, undisclosed amount of time that feels like forever to me. This happens until Blair gets a very strange message on Facebook. It happens to be from her friend's account, but this is not just any friend. This is her dead friend, Laura. Now, Laura, she kicked the bucket on her own, if you get what I mean. Now, at first, well, that's gonna be annoying. Just mixing up names. At first, Blair thinks that this is just a hacker or the same person that's playing tricks on them by joining into their call. But then Mitch sends her a link to an article titled, "Don't Respond to Messages from the Dead." It's during this little interaction with the dead friend on Facebook that the group gets another call from another one of their friends. Val, probably short for Valerie. Val sticks around for probably 5 minutes of the movie before they realize that the Skype account in the group with them is actually Laura's old account. This movie's a little silly to explain. The entity that's controlling these accounts, because it's not just a person, they kind of start to figure that out, because it also tries to cause drama with the group and shows its, like, paranormal hacking skills off here by posting embarrassing pictures of Val at a party that the kids were assumingly at. And she's like, "Oh my god, why would you post that, Jess? You're such a bitch. My mom is friends with me on Facebook."
These are intense. Hold on, did you give Jess permission?
Dude, delete them, Jess. I didn't do this, okay? I don't know why you're getting so
Oh my
pissed
God,
at me. You trashy little bitch, delete them. Wait.
But as soon as Jess goes to delete them, she's like, "Oh my god, I can't delete them." Finally deletes them. Then Adam's account posts it, and Val gets all pissy because she thinks they're fucking with her and leaves because all the characters in this movie are just assholes to each other constantly, and they all suck. And that's pretty much what we get to unravel throughout this film. It's a little bit later, after I don't even remember what happens, that Val shows back up in the Skype call. But this time she just kind of sits there, and you're like, oh, the computer's frozen, her camera's frozen, it's broken. But then she moves a little bit. When her laptop moves, you see a bottle of bleach next to her, and she just falls and collapses onto the ground. The kids all call the police. And within, I swear, like a minute, the police show up. So this entity is trying to, like, can force people to hurt themselves. Isn't it so silly how you're not allowed to say a word that we should be able to say because it brings awareness to things like that? By making it sound more childlike, it almost makes the action seem more inconsequential. The response time for this police department, though, is off the fucking charts. I know, to put this into perspective, all these people seem to be wealthy enough. They're home alone, and Adam and them, like, live in really nice houses, and he's dressed nice. They kind of seem like preppy kids. So, in upper echelon neighborhoods, the response time from police is usually faster because the police stations are closer to richer neighborhoods because they pay taxes to have the police stations closer. But this just seems really, really fast.
Val. Hello?
Can you hear us?
Hello, hey! Dump the computer!
Hello?
Hey.
Hello, can you hear us?
Wait, what'd they say?
10:35.
Anyway, after that friend dies, the entity tells them that they can't hang up or they'll die like Val did, right? That's why she died, because she hung up. The fat kid comes up with a plan to install something on their computers that'll kick this entity out of the Skype chat. At first it seems to work, but when the kids are able to call the police, I don't remember for what. Maybe about the entity or maybe about Val, I don't freaking know. The person on 911, the operator, it's the entity, and they can somehow hack into cell phone towers and pretend to be police operators. Dispatch.
Yeah, hi. There's someone threatening me and my friends online, and they also threatened our friend Valerie Ramel.
I said, don't hang up.
Who did you call?
Fuck! It's this fucking asshole!
It's after this that the entity also somehow grows legs and walks out of the computer and goes into Ken's room and sets up a camera behind him underneath some garbage he has in the back. He goes up to it, and we get the lamest death scene I've ever seen in a movie. It entails him smashing his face into the desk, which is not the worst part, but then the camera just cuts in and out over and over again, and you see him putting his hand in a blender for no reason. Maybe at some point in the movie he was like, "I'm gonna make a smoothie, guys," but why the you have a blender next to your computer? You're not going to blame it on, like, a healthy reason. Look at you, bud.
Ken!
I think that someone working on this movie was like thinking to themselves one day when they were making a smoothie, you know what would be really cool? What if a character put their hand in a blender? It's right after Ken dies. Kevin? I think his name's Kin, since I wrote Kin in this part of the script. The entity forces them all to stay and play a lame game of Never Have I Ever, where it's forcing them all to air out all their dirty laundry. Not only were the characters really annoying and spending way too much time complaining and crying, I say that a lot in a lot of my videos, but now we get to learn how they really do suck, and they just f each other over and are mean to each other all the time. They bully each other, they spread rumors, it's just a lot of just, ugh. They talk shit behind each other's backs. And they even cheat on their boyfriends with their boyfriend's best friend. Nice job, Blair. 30 minutes of this, with each character being picked off one by one, is what we have left. This movie does hold suspense well, and the idea of the movie being filmed through a desktop is the reason I think it kind of holds that suspense. It feels more intimate. I think at the time it might not have, but now that we are so interconnected with our devices, not trying to go on a ramble about modernity, by the way, just stay with me. I think that we've all used FaceTime on our phones, right? We've all seemingly used Discord and have been on video calls and stuff. If you're older, you probably used Skype back then, but I wouldn't say that was the majority. So I think that most people are so interconnected now that this works even better today than it would have back then. I think the main problem of this movie, the characters are just unbearable. They are unbearable. Anyway, the ghost picks off Adam. I think he aims a gun at him. The Jess kill right after Adam is funny. The best way I can describe it, the ghost kind of makes Jess deep throat a curling iron or a hair straightener. I think it's a curling iron, because isn't the straightener like you squeeze it and the curl? I don't know, man. After those two die, it's just Blair and Mitch, where you expected it to end. They get one last chance to tell the truth to this ghost, because I think that's what I was killing them for, is they weren't telling the truth about certain things, and Never Have I Ever.
That wasn't us, Laura.
Laura, please.
It was not us, I promise you. It wasn't us. Please, Laura, it wasn't us.
Blair doesn't end up telling the truth, so we see Adam pretty much just jam a knife through his eye socket. This is me while editing this section of the video. I kept calling Mitch Adam and Blair Jess. That is my fault. I somehow forgot these terrible characters' names. So if you were confused, that's what was happening. It's the only interesting kill in the entire movie. And after that, Jess is alone. And we figure out why the ghost of Laura is haunting the kids. It turns out she was coming back for revenge, and it's just as petty as anything else that's happened in this movie. There was no moral dilemma here, it's just dumb high school bullying and drama. The movie reads more as a PSA for online bullying than anything else, to be honest. Nevertheless, Blair ended up filming Laura when she was just completely shit-faced drunk and managed to shit herself. So Blair goes up behind her and is filming her with Dookie running down her leg and is like, haha, look at her passed out on the ground. Yeah, you shouldn't embarrass your friends and post that online. That's really shitty. Also, it shows them bullying her online, cyberbullying her. And it's not like they were always like, oh, Laura was a bitch anyway. She was so mean to everyone. So it sounded like she was already a bully. So then they f***ed her over and she wants to cry about it and come back as a ghost and kill them all. If you're dumb enough to get that drunk, even if your friend films you like a dickhead, you are mostly to blame. I'd say that 99% of the blame is on you, if not 100%. I don't think that makes it right, nor is what they did a good reason for it to kill them. Everyone's in the wrong here. They're all unbearable. They all suck. Thank God Laura's dead, and thank God everybody else died, so that we never have to deal with them again. Every character in this movie, including Laura, is a bitchy little annoying teenager. Well, they're all adults playing bitchy annoying little teenagers. I never felt any sort of empathy for any of them, including the shitty pants ghost. The ending is also very dumb. Check it out. And that was Unfriended, a cycle of unaliving and teenage drama. I've seen this movie 3 times now, which is why this pessimistic delivery is being made. First time I watched it, whenever I was watching this movie, my notes were a lot more nice to the movie. I don't hate this movie at all either. I actually think it was kind of ahead of its time because it works so much better, in my opinion, now that we are even more connected with technology. I think it is a fine, like, popcorn movie at the theater. I think it's fine as a teenage horror movie. I remember liking it when it came out, and after rewatching it, I don't hate it, but it was kind of a chore on the second rewatch. I'd give this movie a 5 out of 10, I think. It's not bad. Maybe like a 4.5. It's not a bad movie, though. I would never rewatch it again, but I've seen it 3 times now. 2 times over the past month. But that was just the first movie. A couple years later, they ended up following it up with another movie called Unfriended, Dark Web. I'll just be calling it Unfriended too. The second movie is a lot better in a lot of different ways. It has a lot of problems, but that mostly revolves on how goofy some of the plot lines and decisions are in this film. But I think the reason I like it more might mostly come down to the fact that the characters in Unfriended 2 are all adults. Any movie is better without teenage drama. So let's get started and talk about the sequel to Unfriended, and how it manages to kind of sort of blow the first movie out of the water. The movie opens up with a computer screen. Who on earth would have guessed? The computer screen. We see the main character, I might as well, it's a guy, his name's Matthias. There you go, we're calling him Matty. We see him guessing passwords to get into this computer, showing us that this isn't his computer, or maybe he just bought it. He ends up getting into it after some time, and we see him signing into different apps like Facebook. Until he accidentally turns on his camera and we get to see his face, like, oh, that's Matthias. See him downloading a random app onto his computer. I have to keep saying computer, and I hate that because in both of these movies, they're using MacBooks, so I can't say PC. So while I was writing this whole video, I'm sitting there writing out PC and having to hit backspace, computer, over and over and over and over and over again. Oh yeah, the app that he's working on is like a weird app where he talks and it turns it into sign language, which kind of doesn't make sense because his girlfriend can read even though she's deaf. I was wondering, like, can deaf people not learn how to read because they can't sound out things? I don't know much about deaf people, but this app is built for his deaf girlfriend. We get to see her, and she's like kind of super out of his league, but I guess not really because she's deaf, and that probably knocks you down a few rungs on the whole hot or not scale ladder. I'm not entirely sure, but she's deaf. He makes an app because he hasn't spent time working on learning sign language, which you learn later on is like, oh my god, I love you, baby, I'm so sorry, I'll put more time and effort into this. As if any of that matters. We're in a horror movie, they're all going to die, but he has a deaf girlfriend and is making an app to where when he talks, even though she can read lips, it shows him doing sign language, which I guess in part is him like, hey, I recorded all these things of me doing sign language inside of this. That's like the first 30 minutes of the movie, so let's move past that. The conversation, by the way, the conversations with this deaf girl and him are fucking awkward because one of them cannot talk. So she's just listening to him and like shaking her head like, oh yeah, I understand what you mean there, big guy. And then she just turns over like this and starts fucking typing. I never dated a deaf person, but if I was dating a deaf girl, I'd just come live in my house so I can just sign to you. I'm not talking over voice chat. The whole reason for her being deaf is like, this is entirely a plot device. And it doesn't equate to very much at all.
Just remember who has 2 thumbs and gives the best massages in the world. Okay, all right.
Now I have all these questions about deaf people. Oh, I also wrote down that his girlfriend seemed kind of unimpressed by it because she was pissed off. Women. I'm not taking that out of the video. During their little conversation, his computer ends up freezing up. With our luck, we get to still continue to hear him talk while this happens, so it somehow keeps his recording and the audio doesn't mess up when his computer freezes. That sure wasn't the case with MacBooks back when I was younger. How about a little story time? One time, little 5th grade me, don't remember how old I was. How old are you in 5th grade? Maybe like 11 or 10. We had all these little MacBook computers in our school, little laptops, and we were meant to write an essay of some sort. Well, I thought it would be funny to write silly little things about my friends. So I wrote down to a kid named Austin in my school, Austin gets in the ass. What you're not supposed to do. Right when that happened, MacBooks at our school froze up. And guess what? The teacher came over, because we're all laughing and like, oh, and she sees that. I got sent to the principal's office, and I got in trouble. I hate MacBooks ever since. Matty ends up talking to his babe a little while longer, which is a stupid way to say that, but I'm keeping it in. He gets a message from his friends saying it's game night. He offers her to join him, but she's still pissy. Women. Half of my audience is not going to like this video, which is weird that half of my audience is females. I never thought that would happen. Not that I'm like anti-woman or a misogynist. I was just interesting. That's cool. I find that interesting. It's cool. Hey, all the ladies out there. So in order to fit this game night into the movie, all of his friends kind of live all across the world from all other backgrounds and such. You got an Asian girl, you got some lesbian girls, nerdy guy in Britain, and nerdy guy in America. So yeah, they're all over. And they're all kinds of different. So they end up doing their little game nights now over Skype, because I guess they all went to college together, and they can't do their game nights at home. During this little Skype calls, like, beginning, Maddie ends up getting messages on Facebook, not from his account that he's logged into. Actually, I think he logs out of his Facebook account every time he gets on for some psychotic reason. But it's from an account that was linked to this laptop before Maddie got it. And when he opens it up, do Facebook accounts stay logged in the browser after you log out and you can still get messages? Was that like that in 2018 or 2016 whenever this came out? I haven't used Facebook since probably 2018, 2019. Anyway, Maddie ends up logging into this guy's other Facebook account and snoops around for a bit and sees all these cute ladies messaging this guy. Turns out the old owner was a real ladies' man. I'm going to start out this segment by saying the year this movie came out, it was like 2016 or 2018. So when you have a group playing a game together, what game do you think that's going to be over Skype? Cards Against Humanity. Those 3 words kind of make my skin crawl from cringe and bad memories of drinking with people and playing that. Also at how unfunny that game is. I guess now is probably a good time to explain who his friends are. I don't remember any of their names. And at the time of writing this, I was like, I do not feel like going to IMDb and writing their names down and remembering them. So I guess I'll explain what they look like, or a character trait instead. So here's me explaining who they are, although I kind of already did that earlier.
Hey, how about
We go analog, huh? Little toot.
Maddie, Maddie's deaf girlfriend. The lesbian couple, the Asian girl who does music and dies first, and we have a dorky guy who does YouTube and likes conspiracy theories, and then we have the cool dorky guy who also is like into computers and tech, and is actually cool and dorky because he's better looking than the other dorky guy. And he has a cool little accent in it.
everyone now, because they can see what he really looks like, everyone on Facebook's just like, unfriending him.
Sorry for the spoilers about the Asian girl dying first, but yeah, all the characters die, so there's that. Now that we have all the people in the movie who will die out of the way, let's continue. They play that card game of Cards Against Humanity for a little while until Maddie's computer locks up again. When he joins back in to the thing, we hear the dorky guy talking about conspiracies.
And third, guys, how many times do I have to tell you, it is not just the government. It is the Circadians and the Bilderbergs and the Illuminati and corporations. Why do you think Facebook and Twitter are free? Because you're the product. It is total integration of Wi-Fi and cell towers, GPS, IP address detection, Bluetooth device tracking. Even those Fitbit things you like to run around with, they can track you through that.
A very cool guy, reminds me a lot of myself, so I obviously can't be biased in that instance. It's sometime after this little rant that Matthias figures out why his computer keeps locking up, and it's because a giant portion of his hard drive is partitioned off. So he has the tech British guy end up telling him like, oh, here, you can use this in order to get into the partitioned off hard drive. They get into it, and we see a ton of security footage from all sorts of different cameras. They go on to explain like, oh, they're recording people, like they're hacking into their things when they drive by and recording into their houses. By the sheer amount of video footage inside of this computer, this isn't the only bit of video footage either. I don't know how this little hard drive can hold on to this, because it's only 500 gigabytes. After finding all of these spooky videos of people, the group talks about just kind of life and boring stuff for a good 20 minutes of the movie, so that doesn't exist. We're moving on. That monotony is broken up when a random Facebook account on there ends up messaging Maddie and is like, hey bro, you took my computer, give it back to me. And Maddie's like, uh-oh, I'll do that right away, brother. He admits to his friends that he stole this laptop out of the lost and found at his job. But that's when he gets another message on Facebook where this guy's all like, hey, I sent you the transaction, talk to me on the river. They find an app on his computer that's called the River, which is actually a dark web encrypted way for a bunch of hackers all over the world to communicate with each other and sell things. They dig deeper in the computer, they find videos of like girls being murdered. After they see the guy send a transaction over of money, he asks for a particular thing, which is like drilling holes into people's heads or some shit. They see the transactions, like a shitload of Bitcoin. They look into this Bitcoin wallet. Inside, he has 15,000 Bitcoin. So now the people are not only like, oh my God, what have we stumbled onto? We have to call the police. But then they're like, oh God, that Bitcoin is worth $10 million.
Wait, that's just from a couple of minutes ago.
Bitcoin, that's not a real currency, right?
It's cryptocurrency. No middlemen, no banks. It's 10 million. That's $10 million, guys.
If you were curious about what 15,000 Bitcoin would be worth in today's time of me writing this video, it could have changed. $1.1 billion. But anyway, the movie just heads down this tried and true kind of internet, deep web, true crime, internet, red room shit. Don't worry, there's also a very silly twist ending. And now that Maddie and his friends figured out that they could steal $10 million from this guy, they argue amongst themselves about what they're going to do for a little while. During this, we get our first big thrill of the movie, though. And that is when the guy who he took the laptop from manages to track down Maddie's deaf girlfriend. Maddie gets a call from his girlfriend, and he's like, what the hell? There's nobody here. And then we see a random girl walk in. I guess this is her roommate. Her roommate's like, oh, hey, Maddie, she's in the shower. And then we see her just get got by a guy. This is where silly things are happening. Every time the bad guys in this movie show up on camera, which is a lot, mind you, the camera that it's recording on, no matter if it's a random phone in Hong Kong, manages to have a glitchy effect, like they're wearing Fallout invisibility armor or something. So somehow this group is able to hack into any device in the entire world within milliseconds. This happens throughout the entire movie, unless the director doesn't want it to happen at a specific point in order to show the bad guys' faces, which it does, and then they can see them. I don't really get it, I don't get the decision, and I don't like it. They could have just worn masks like any other bad horror movie I have talked about in the past. So the bad guy ends up messaging Maddie through his girlfriend's Facebook, and the color of the messages are changed. They're like black or something. And then they randomly delete after Maddie reads them somehow. It's silly as f. I think that Facebook chats have always been encrypted through Facebook Messenger to where, at least in 2018, maybe they're not even encrypted. Facebook probably still gathers that data because of how evil they are. I don't think that the person will be able to somehow unsend the messages. I don't know too much about computer programming to really give a shit, so let's move on. Bad guy's like, hey, if you let your girlfriend know what happened, then I'm gonna kill her. And Maddie has to lie and pretend, be like, oh, hey, babe, how you doing there? This goes on for a bit, and the hacker guy leaves or something. I don't care. When Matthias joins back with his friends, after being threatened by the hacker man, that if he tells a soul that they'll all die. His friends have questions for him because, of course, they've seen this. Maddie, realizing that the bad man can see their conversations and see their video chat, he can see everything they're doing, decides to lie to his friends and say that this whole thing was a game that he created, kind of like an ARG.
Get the laptop, go down to the police station. I will be there, okay? No. I have a friend that will meet us. He knows how to deal with this kind of situation. Yes.
We can. It's not real. What?
It's a game. I made the whole thing up. It's a game.
Wow. That was bloody...
Wait, AJ, were you in on this?
Hell no. I had no idea about this.
They eat it up for a little while, but again, they're like, why the f would you play this kind of prank on us without warning us? That's really messed up. And yeah, it is. But things kind of turn to shit really quickly here. It starts with Maddie lying to his girlfriend again and manipulating her into coming over to his house so that he could try to save his life. But after hanging up with her, he makes a pretty grave mistake in that he takes all $15,000 from the Bitcoin wallet and transfers it into his own wallet as a ransom for his girlfriend's life.
You stupid mother! All I want is my laptop!
All I want is Amaya!
You don't understand what you have gotten yourself into!
You killed Kelly!
No, I didn't!
If you lay a hand on Amaya or Erica...
Type A-B-Y-S-S-U-S. Second word, A-B-Y-S-S-U-M. Third word, I-N-V-O-C-A-T.
Wait, they're typing in all caps. Should it be in all caps?
Just send it!
So here we get to see the bad guy's face, because he's like, oh my god, you f***ed us balls, dude. And he sounds exactly like that as far as I can remember. So, I mean, I guess that was a way to show how f***ed they're supposed to be, even though they're not actually f***ed. It doesn't really make sense for this sort of found footage-esque approach either, because you could argue that all the footage that's in this movie, those people are all erased in all the footage, because they got the footage and then released it, because this movie seems really found footage. Anyway, Maddie joins back into the call with his friends again, and all the hacking, murdering snuff film people kind of join in, and his friends are like, oh my god, the game's continuing, and Maddie's like, no, this shit's real, we're gonna die, and they don't believe him for a little while, but then they see some crazy stuff and end up believing him. Because the Asian girl in their friend group is gone, and right after this we see her out from a phone randomly down the street recording up her sitting on top of the roof. She's not going to jump off, no. A bad guy in invisibility armor goes and pushes her off the roof. Directly after this, they all freak the f*** out, of course, because they just watched their friend get murdered and realized all of this was real. Then, for some reason, this next bit of the movie, the bad guys, the Sharons, as they're called, Sharons, I think that might be an angel or something, they're using it, I don't know. They disconnect, and somehow Maddie is still pretending like things aren't going bad with the guy who's going to track his girlfriend, when he could just tell him that, hey, they've caught on to us, but maybe he's worried that they'll kill his girlfriend anyway. So even though the Sharon people can see them, the group pretends to play play the Cards Against Humanity again. And his girlfriend's in the subway, so every time she reaches a certain point, she loses internet connection on his call. So then the guy, they assume, is also following her in a subway car, so he can't see either. So then they start talking about what they're gonna do. It's really confusing, and the movie's just silly, so let's move on and not even think about it. During this, the hackers kill off the conspiracy dork guy. I can't show you the whole thing, because YouTube would try to kill me just like these bad people. But how they do it is they hack into his YouTube channel, or not, they don't hack it, they grab voice clips of him saying something and put them together to make it sound like he's threatening the police, that he killed somebody in his house. So he gets swatted by them, technically. And then when the police get there, they hack into his surround sound system that he talked about all the time, his stereo system. That's all he talks about during this movie. They hack into that and play gunshot sounds over it, so then the police just shoot him as soon as they get in. So dorky guy dies. This is actually kind of a cool death for any of the Unfriended movies. It's the most interesting one that's happened so far up until this point, even if it is dumb. Then we have the lesbian chicks. They're arguing because the one lesbian chick, the black girl, she's a cop, I think. They can't use their phone to call the police, so she decides it's a good idea to sneak out and go to a subway. But the problem here is that the hackers aren't omnipresent, like God. So they just go to the substation and push her into the subway. They then kill the blonde girl inside of her home. This is more of just an invisible glitchy guy coming in and killing them. None of this is slightly interesting. The movie does get a little bit more interesting after they die, and Matthias decides to hop on his bike and head out to go pick up his girlfriend, go find her, right? This doesn't turn out well for the British guy, because we see him have a guy come in and kill him and make it look like he did it. They even write out a note blaming it all on him and Matthias, like this whole thing is them being bad people, including the snuff films or something. So you're like, oh my god, they're gonna make it look like all these snuff movies are Matthias's fault. We then continue to see this when on the video call, one of the girls from earlier that was in one of the snuff films who had the hole drilled in her head ends up popping out of Maddie's closet. So then in there, I don't know what happened to Maddie's girlfriend. I don't remember. Maybe she was killed. But Maddie's the only one left out of the people in the Skype call. And while he's riding his bike looking for his girlfriend and sees all his friends die, he's like, oh my god, There's a vote that pops up with tens of thousands of votes, and they ask, should we leave Maddie alive? I mean, you just did all this work to make it look like he did the bad things, but they vote off to just kill him. So they just hit him with a random van. That's the end of the movie. They could have left him alive and went down that, very common but cool plot twist we've seen 100 times, where Maddie is taking the fall for everything, even though he's like, oh my god, I didn't do it. But, like, we as an audience know he didn't do it, but he gets in trouble. But yeah, they just killed him. I don't get the point of any of that, because, like, he'll be viewed as a bad guy, but who cares? Like, he's floating around in heaven. Like, what the fuck does it matter to him? During the credits, or right before, we see all the bad masked Fallout 4 armor people. Whichever one, is it New Vegas that has the invisibility Chinese armor? I don't remember. They all turn their armor off, and we see it's just a bunch of people working in on this. Like, thousands of people. One of them's even a cop. So it's this giant, massive underground group of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands, from all different backgrounds all over the world, just like him and his friends, doing this. So I guess they set up Maddie and his friends with this laptop. It also, I mean, it didn't make sense that this laptop was left there for a couple weeks, like Maddie said. But they're elite hackers who were trying to kill these people on live stream. And I guess they could easily cover it up since they're so good at their job. I find this incredibly hard to believe, knowing how powerful the letter agencies are all over the world, but cool. The ending does kind of ruin this movie for me overall. A lot of the more thrilling parts of the film are good enough to where I don't mind it. Of course, with its natural spying nature and its being awkward at times, that can either make you laugh or make you uncomfortable. But there's not really much actual horror here, but the storyline itself, I was like, okay, what's gonna happen next? I actually kind of cared about the characters, I guess, in this movie. So, knowing all that, I'm gonna give it like a 6 out of 10, 6.5. Let me know what you thought about it down below. Anyway, that was the Unfriended movies. I kind of pushed past that second one, because this script for the second movie was way longer than the first. I guess that kind of shows you that I liked the second movie a lot more than the first one. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a like and subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 1,100 subscribers. I'm not sure entirely what my next video is going to be about. I have several different ideas. If there is a series, or... because there's a lot of movies that people have told me to watch, but I don't really want to make videos on them. I have watched a lot of things that people have recommended. If you have a cool idea, let me know down below. Anyway, this was Unfriended. Well, I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.
Listen to me. I want you to listen to me, whoever I'm talking to right now.
I'm gay.